For 18 years, every time I came home, my brother called me the family failure. The one who couldn't settle down. Visit 5, couldn't maintain relationships, couldn't understand what family really needed. I was the problem at every holiday, every phone call, every conversation about Dad's future. And I believed him. Right up until the moment I realized he'd been systematically stealing from our 71-year-old father, using a doctor whose medical license had been revoked for fraud. Not amateur theft, not desperation. A proven system he'd imported from 2 other states, where 2 other families lost everything before they understood what was happening. Jew 5 Dad was number 3. And Jarrett, my older brother, the successful one. The 5. The one who stayed close and showed up and played devoted son for 18 years. Had spent the last 4 months positioning himself to take control of force. $4.6 million using falsified medical certifications, and a power of attorney Dad didn't know he was signing.
5.
I'm a SWAT hostage negotiator. I'm trained to see when someone's performing, and that Friday night at Jarrett's dinner table, I finally stopped watching my brother through a sister's eyes and started watching him the way I'd watch any other threat. Let me take you back to that Friday night, to the exact moment I understood I was watching a crime in progress. Before we begin, drop a quick comment for me. What are you doing while you listen? Driving, working, or winding down for the evening? I read every comment. 5, and your perspective matters. A quick note, some details in this story have been adjusted for reflection and learning. The message, the lesson at its heart, is what I hope stays with you. I was 36 years old. 5, a SWAT crisis negotiator with more successful hostage talks than failed ones. But my brother still introduced me as the one who couldn't keep a marriage together. Jarrett Sinclair, 43. Stood at the entrance of his hill country home, in pressed slacks and cashmere. Every inch the successful real estate attorney who knew exactly which words opened doors. He smiled as I stepped inside, but his body angled left, positioning himself between me and whatever sat on the living room coffee table. So glad you made the drive down, he said. 5, Dad's been asking about you. I looked past his shoulder. Sidney Sinclair, 70, sat in the chair Jarrett had pulled out for him, fingers resting on his knees. Too still. I'd spent 14 years reading body language in hostage situations. That wasn't relaxation, that was control. On the coffee table sat legal documents thick enough to transfer property. The logo matched Jarrett's law firm. Just some paperwork, Jarrett said, following my gaze. Nothing urgent. Verna's made pot roast. Verna Sinclair, 41, moved between kitchen and dining room with practiced efficiency. Her role as Jarrett's wife, requiring her to smile at exactly the right moments. She waved from the doorway, wooden spoon in hand, performing warmth. But it was the man in the corner chair who made me stop. This is Dr. Hewitt, Jarrett said. Dad's new family doctor. He's been wonderful helping Dad manage his health decisions. The older man stood, extending his hand. Just routine check-ins. Important at his age. I shook his hand and smiled, but the moment he spoke, something in my chest went cold and precise. I knew that voice. 4 months ago. My SWAT colleague had sent me audio from an elder fraud investigation in Arizona, a doctor signing false certifications to declare parents incompetent. The case had closed, but that voice had stayed with me. This voice. Your brother speaks highly of your adventurous career, Dr. Hewitt said. How many family dinners are staged crime scenes where no one's screaming yet? I kept my expression pleasant. Let Jarrett guide me to the dining room. Pot roast, roasted carrots, fresh bread. Dad sat silent at one end, Verna served. Jarrett talked about weather, about traffic, about anything except the documents then. Over dessert, he said it. There's a charity gala next weekend. Whole family will be there. Once Dad signs today, we can celebrate properly. He said it casually, like mentioning dry cleaning. Dad's eyes found mine for half a second before looking away. Verna's hands paused, then continued. Jarrett smiled. Waited. I smiled back. Family should be together for this. It's what's best for everyone, he agreed. 11 minutes. That's how long it had been since I walked through the door. 11 minutes to catalog the documents, recognize the doctor's voice from fraud investigations, note my father's fear, map my brother's timeline. 11 minutes to understand that Jarrett thought he was orchestrating something careful and contained. What he didn't know was that I'd been watching for 4 months. And I'd just confirmed everything. I left before dessert, citing an early meeting. Jarrett didn't push. He thought he had time. The hotel room was nothing like his house. No warm lighting, no staged warmth, no performance required. SU5 budget chain off Highway 290, thin walls and parking lot view. For the first time in 4 hours, I could breathe. I opened my laptop and pulled up the files I'd been building since September. Spreadsheets tracking Dad's accounts, property records, transaction logs from Jarrett's law firm. 4 months of watching patterns I'd hoped I was wrong about. I wasn't. 6 months ago, Dad's assets had started moving. Small transfers, repositioning accounts, changing beneficiaries. 5. It looked like estate planning until you mapped it together and saw everything flowed one direction. Toward Jarrett's control. 5. I'd come home because the pattern accelerated in January. Whatever he was planning, he was running out of time. Tonight confirmed it. Those documents on the coffee table weren't theoretical anymore. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, null number. I stared at the screen 3 seconds before picking it up. I know what you're looking for. I have more documents. Don't react when you see me tomorrow. Please. I set the phone down slowly. The way you'd handle potential evidence or trap. Training kicked in automatically. Assess threat level. Evaluate source. Determine if this was intelligence or misdirection. In hostage negotiations, when someone finally makes contact after long silence. 5. They're not being brave. They're out of options. I pulled up a different file, one labeled Communications Metadata. 4 months of mapping who called whom, who texted when, which numbers appeared in document properties. 5 digital forensics that told you more than people meant to share. I entered the unknown number, 3 hits, all within 6 months. All connected to financial documents I'd been tracking. The number wasn't in Dad's contacts, wasn't in Jarrett's business records. Wasn't registered to any name through normal channels, but it appeared in metadata of files sent from one specific email address.
Verna.
An address belonging to Verna's financial compliance work at the regional bank. I sat back and looked at those 3 message bubbles. Verna. 5. Jarrett's wife. The woman who'd moved through tonight's dinner with practiced efficiencies, smiling at the right moments, playing her role perfectly. She'd watched me catalog that coffee table, watched her husband position himself between me and documents, watched Dad sit too still. Darn 5. Now she was reaching out, using a phone not on their family plan. I opened a new document and started typing. 2 columns. Who knows what, and when they knew it. People don't break cover, unless something breaks them first. People don't contact strangers, even family strangers, unless loyalty has fractured. The real question wasn't whether I could trust her. It was what Jarrett had done to push his own wife this far. By morning, I still didn't know if I could trust Verna. But I knew I'd find out. She opened the door at 8:30, and for half a second before her smile locked into place, I saw it. Relief. Fear. Confirmation that last night's text was real. Perfect timing, she said. Bacon and fresh coffee filled the house. Legal documents spread across the dining table beside Dad's cup, closer than Friday night. Dr. Hewitt sat in the same corner chair. Professional witness to whatever came next. We were just reviewing Dad's protection plan, Jarrett said, pulling out my chair. He looked rested, confident. Hours away from getting what he wanted, Dad sat at the head of the table, hands beside his plate. Still. Too still. Coffee. 5, Corinne? Verna poured without waiting, movements efficient, eyes never meeting mine for more than a second. Given Sydney's condition, time-sensitive decisions require clarity, Dr. Hewitt said. We can't afford to wait. Jarrett reached for the documents, slid them closer to Dad. Placed a pen beside them with deliberate care. It's straightforward, Dad. Simple power of attorney for medical and financial decisions. For your protection. Dad's hand moved toward the pen, slow, fingers trembling. I reached across the table and touched his wrist. Gentle. No pressure, no words. Just contact. His hand stopped. He looked at me for half a second, then withdrew. The pen stayed on the table. In hostage negotiations, the smallest intervention diffuses the biggest explosions. One hand on a wrist can stop what 100 words can't. 5. I should. Dad started. Dr. Hewitt confirms this is medically necessary given your episodes. Jarrett cut in, voice smooth but faster. We've discussed this. It's what's best. I leaned back, left hand on the table, right hand in my lap. The watch on my wrist caught morning light. Standard black band, simple face. The kind you'd expect from law enforcement. Practical, unremarkable. Do you have a problem with this? Corinne? Jarrett's voice had an edge now, professional mask slipping, his jaw tightened. With protecting Dad. I met his eyes. 5. I'd just like to understand what he's signing first. You've been gone for years, he said, irritation flashing before he controlled it. Toe 5, you don't know what's necessary. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. What Jarrett didn't know, what nobody in this room understood, was that my watch wasn't just keeping time standard SWAT equipment. For 5, innocuous enough that no one questions it, sophisticated enough to capture every word in high definition. Friday night's dinner. This morning's breakfast. Every meeting since I'd walked through his door. 3 recordings. 3 times. Jarrett had detailed exactly what he was doing and why, thinking these were private family discussions. Faux 5. Thinking the only person listening was a father he believed couldn't stop him, and a sister he'd dismissed for 18 years. People always tell you their plan when they think no one with power is listening. I pulled into a gas station parking lot 10 miles outside Fredericksburg. Rain drummed against the roof of my sedan, steady and insistent. Through 5, through the windshield. Highway traffic blurred into streaks of color. Kate Reeves, my SWAT colleague who'd pulled me out of tight spots before. 5 had database access that could verify what my gut already knew. She answered on the second ring. Corinne. What's wrong? I need a background check, I said, watching rain slide down the glass. Dr. Marcus Hewitt, geriatric psychiatrist out of Austin. Give me 10 minutes. I folded a gas receipt into smaller and smaller squares while I waited. The rain intensified. A semi rumbled past, spraying water across my windshield. My phone buzzed. 5, his medical license was revoked, Kate said without preamble. August 2024. Texas Medical Board cited insurance fraud and falsifying patient assessments. 18 months ago. 18 months of fraudulent medical certifications. How many families? He's still practicing? Not legally. But there's no physical enforcement unless someone files a formal complaint. He just can't bill insurance or prescribe controlled substances. Which meant Dad's cash payments weren't just convenient. They were necessary. 5, what else? Kate was quiet for a moment. The sound of keyboard clicks carried through the line. Arizona, she finally said. 2024. 5, Phoenix police investigated him in connection with an elder exploitation case. The family lost their home before they discovered the conservatorship was fraudulent. My hand tightened on the phone. 5, New Mexico before that, Kate continued. 2023, Albuquerque, same pattern. Elderly parent, adult child gaining power of attorney. Doctor certifying diminished capacity. The victim's daughter. The victim's daughter didn't realize until her father's retirement accounts were emptied. Did either case go to trial? Civil settlements. Both families signed NDAs. The doctor's involvement was never prosecuted, because proving conspiracy is difficult without direct evidence. I stared at the rain-soaked parking lot. 2 families, 2 states, same method. Jarrett hadn't invented this scheme, he'd imported it. The Phoenix case, I said. What was the timeline? Medical certification in March 2024. Property transferred by June. Family discovered the fraud in August. Same month Hewitt's license was revoked. 4 months. The same window Jarrett had been working on Dad. Send me everything you have, I said. 0.5 names, case numbers, settlements. Corinne. If you're thinking what I think you're thinking, just send it. I ended the call and sat in the rain-dimmed car. Dad wasn't the first victim. He was the 3rd target in a proven system, and the previous 2 families hadn't discovered the truth until everything was gone. But I wasn't them. I had 4 months of recordings. I had a pattern spanning 3 states. And I had a brother who didn't know I'd been documenting everything since September. I started the engine and pulled back onto the highway. The rain was letting up. Verna Hayes had promised evidence. If she had proof connecting Jarrett to the other cases. I had everything I needed to stop this before Dad became another sealed settlement and signed NDA. Verna was already sitting in the corner booth when I arrived Sunday morning, hands wrapped around a coffee cup she hadn't touched. Looking like someone who'd spent the night deciding whether to run or stay. Burnt coffee and cinnamon-filled Creekside coffee shop. Sigh slid into the seat across from her, away from the windows. Her fingers trembled as she pulled a small USB drive from her purse and slid it across the table. Everything's on there, she said quietly. 6 months. I've been copying files since August. I picked up the drive, barely an ounce. Transfers to the doctor, Verna continued. 5 emails about your father's diagnosis. Contract drafts, financial projections showing how he planned to liquidate Sydney's assets. All of it. 6 months of evidence from Jarrett's personal computer. Why now? I asked. Verna lifted her coffee cup, then set it down without drinking. I need my name kept out of any legal action. Why? I'm filing divorce papers. Tuesday my attorney's ready. But if Jarrett suspects I gave you this before I'm safely out. She didn't finish. I set the USB drive between us. How long have you known? I'm a financial compliance officer at Hill Country Regional Bank. She met my eyes. I recognize fraud patterns. I saw them in his files months ago. And you stayed silent. Yes. The coffee shop door chimed. An elderly couple shuffled toward the counter. The espresso machine hissed. Trust isn't built on perfect motives. It's built on honest ones. What changed? I asked. Friday night. That dinner. I watched your face while you were reading the room. You understood exactly what was happening. She paused. I couldn't be the only one who knew and did nothing. I studied her. Red-rimmed eyes, carefully applied makeup hiding exhaustion. The kind of tired that comes from carrying secrets that corrode from inside. I need to know. I said. Are you doing this for Dad? Or for yourself? Verna didn't answer immediately. She held my gaze, expression still, considering. Not scrambling for response, not deflecting. Just checking something internal, verifying her own truth. 3 seconds then, both. I reached across and picked up the USB drive.
5.
In 14 years of hostage negotiations, I'd learned one absolute. Liars answer immediately because they've rehearsed. Truth tellers pause. Just long enough to confirm what they're about to say is accurate. 3 seconds. The space between certainty and deception. 5. That's the first fully honest thing anyone said to me since I came home, I said. Verna's eyes glistened. She nodded once. Stood with her untouched coffee. Tuesday, she said quietly. After that, I won't be reachable. She walked out without looking back. I sat alone in the corner booth, USB drive warm in my palm. 6 months of bank transfers, email threads. The entire architecture of my brother's systematic theft. Verna, with her divorce attorney and compliance officer's eye for patterns. 5. Had handed me the evidence Jarrett thought was locked behind password protection. People who tell the truth don't answer immediately. 3 seconds. That's all the verification I needed. The phone rang while I was standing at the edge of Pedernales River overlook, watching cold January water move over limestone. And the moment I saw Jarrett's name on the screen, I knew the performance was over. I answered. What are you doing with my wife? His voice was stripped of every ounce of warmth. Flat, cold, controlled anger underneath. No greeting. No pretense. Wind cut across the water. I didn't answer. I know you met with Verna this morning, Jarrett continued. Don't pretend you didn't. I watched a fallen branch drift downstream, catching on rocks. Thief. Did you file the power of attorney paperwork with the court? I asked. Silence, 3 seconds of it. The same tell as Verna's truth pause. But this one confirmed guilt instead of honesty. You don't understand, he finally said, voice tighter. 5. I'm protecting Dad from what's coming. From what's coming, I repeated. 5, or from having a choice. He's not capable of making rational financial decisions anymore. 5. The medical certification. From a doctor whose license was revoked 18 months ago for insurance fraud. Another pause. Shorter this time. You've been busy, Jarrett said quietly. I turned away from the overlook railing, facing the empty parking lot instead of the river. 18 years of family dinners, and we'd never once spoken this honestly. Arizona, I said. Phoenix, 2024. Then Albuquerque before that. Same pattern, same doctor, same method. How much did he charge you to replicate it here? The silence stretched longer. Stay out of this. Corinne. I can't do that. You think you understand what's happening, but you don't see the full picture. Dad's assets need protection from you. Before I tell you what that silence confirmed, are you still with me? Comment A if confronting him immediately was the right move, or B if hanging up was smarter. Add one short reason. Quick note, what follows includes some dramatized details for emotional impact. The lesson is what matters. I understand exactly, I said. I hung up. The river kept moving below me, indifferent to phone calls and family implosions. I stared at the cold water, while my mind calculated timelines. If Jarrett filed Friday morning, which the 3-second silence had all but confirmed, the legal objection window closed Tuesday evening. 5. 48 hours from now. 48 hours to build a case strong enough to stop documents that would give him total control over Dad's estate. 48 hours. But 48 or my brother, became the third successful iteration of a pattern that had already destroyed 2 other families in 2 other states. I slipped the phone into my pocket and walked back to my car. The USB drive from Verna sat in the center console. 6 months of evidence. 5 bank transfers, email threads. The entire architecture of systematic theft. Monday night. The charity gala Jarrett had been planning for weeks. The Fredericksburg Event Center, 200 donors, Dad in attendance as guest of honor, while Jarrett played devoted son for an audience. One public moment before Tuesday's legal deadline. I started the engine. The river disappeared in my rearview mirror. 5. For the first time since I'd come home, neither of us was pretending we didn't know exactly what was happening. The masks were off. The performance was over, 48 hours left. He knew. I knew. No more pretending. The Fredericksburg Event Center chandeliers cast perfect light across 150 guests, who had no idea they were attending the final act of 4-month investigation. 48 hours had compressed into this moment. Monday evening. Every piece positioned. Polished floors reflected crystal light. Dad sat at the head table, hands folded, expressionless. Verna 2 seats down, maintaining distance. Helen Ramsey. Notary public, with 30 years of witnessing legal signatures. 5. Sat at the side table with documents that would transfer control of $4.6 million. If they got signed. 5. Jarrett adjusted the microphone. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, voice warm and practiced. This cause is deeply personal to our family. Applause rippled. I kept my hands still on the white tablecloth. As many of you know, we're facing difficult decisions about aging parents. Decisions that require clarity, stability, and presence. The speech shifted. 5. Sometimes love means making hard choices, he continued, even when other family members don't understand. Even when those who've been absent suddenly return with concerns. He didn't use my name. Several guests glanced toward me. Wife. What matters is protecting those who can't protect themselves. Protecting them from instability. 5. From well-meaning but unreliable people who haven't been present for the difficult years. Dad's expression didn't change. I didn't watch Jarrett's performance. My eyes scanned the room. 3 exits, 2 security positions, 12 tables. 5 body language assessment. 80% sympathetic to his narrative. 15% neutral. 5% uncomfortable. 5. He was performing for an audience. I was mapping the room the way I'd map any crisis situation before intervention.
Mo 5.
Tonight isn't just about charity, Jarrett continued. It's about family. About ensuring continuity and care when those we love need us most. Applause built as he stepped from the podium. The notary shifted papers. Jarrett returned to his seat beside Dad, searching my face. Waiting for anger, hurt, protest, I gave him one slow nod. The same precise signal I use to tell a tactical team. Proceeding as planned. Execute on mark. His shoulders relaxed. Relief flickered before he smoothed it away. He thought the nod meant I understood, that I'd accepted defeat, that his performance had worked. He thought this was his stage. What he didn't know. I'd contacted the venue coordinator 2 weeks ago. I'd reviewed the guest list. I'd chosen this moment not in spite of the audience, but because of it. 2 weeks of preparation. 4 months of documentation. 5-6 months of evidence from Verna. 18 months of fraudulent practice across 3 states. All converging in one room with 150 witnesses and one notary who'd been told to expect an objection. Jarrett lifted his water glass in silent toast. I returned the gesture. In 20 minutes, Helen Ramsey would approach with power of attorney documents. Jarrett expected Dad to sign while guests watched, making it look natural and willing. He didn't know I'd choreographed every moment that came next. He thinks this is his stage. He doesn't know I choreographed it all. 20 minutes after Jarrett's speech, while guests congratulated him and servers cleared dessert plates, Helen Ramsey gathered her notary documents and began walking toward our father's table. I stood smoothly. May I say a few words about my father before the signing? I asked. Jarrett's eyes narrowed. Social protocol demanded he agree. Refusing would look suspicious to 150 witnesses. Of course, he said, smile tight. 5 families should speak. Conversation at nearby tables quieted. A guest whispered, 5, this should be touching. I didn't walk toward the podium microphone. I walked to the notary's side table instead. From my bag, I removed 3 printed documents, placed them before Helen Ramsey in deliberate sequence. First, Texas Medical Board certification. Dr. Marcus Hewitt's medical license. Revoked 18 months ago for insurance fraud and falsifying patient assessments. Diagnosis legally invalid. Second. Bank statements. 6 transfers from Jarrett's personal account to Hewitt over 5 months. Each marked consultation. Total. $42,000. Third. Printed transcript. 3 recorded meetings. Jarrett's voice, describing step-by-step plan to secure power of attorney, using compromised medical certification. The room went silent. Helen Ramsey's face changed from professional neutrality to recognition as she read. Her hand moved to the power of attorney documents she'd been preparing to witness, then pulled back. I said nothing. No dramatic speech. No accusations. No explanations. Evidence doesn't need a voice, it just needs witnesses. Guests at nearby tables leaned forward, trying to see what the notary was reading. The chandeliers hummed softly overhead. Silverware clinked somewhere in the kitchen. I reached to my wrist and unclasped my watch. Standard SWAT-grade recording equipment. Innocuous enough nobody had questioned it for 4 months. I placed it beside the documents, still said nothing. 150 people held their breath. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Dad sat motionless at the head table, hands still folded, watching me with an expression I couldn't read. Verna 2 seats down. 45 divorce papers ready for Tuesday morning. Met my eyes once and nodded. Helen Ramsey set down the transcript page, looked at Jarrett. 5. Then at the power of attorney documents, then back at the evidence. The silence stretched then. Wood scraping marble. Jarrett's chair pushed violently backward. The sound cut through crystalline quiet like a gunshot. He stood. Didn't speak. Didn't defend. Didn't explain. Just stood there while 150 people watched him not deny a single piece of evidence on that table. To 5, when guilty people run, they always make noise. The room held that silence. 17 seconds. I counted the way I count in every crisis situation to track time against panic. 17 seconds of 150 witnesses watching 3 pieces of paper and 1 watch on white tablecloth. 17 seconds of my brother understanding exactly what just happened. Helen Ramsey gathered the power of attorney documents, held them for a moment, then placed them face down on her table. I cannot witness these signatures, she said quietly, voice carrying in the silence. Jarrett turned and walked toward the exit, fast. Not running, but close. Verna didn't follow. Dad's hands unfolded slowly. He looked at me across the room. I walked back to the head table and sat down beside him. Silence long enough to hear his chair move. Only sound needed. The hallway outside the ballroom was quieter than any room should be after what had just happened. Soft amber lights, empty chairs. The distant sound of lawyers handling what comes after exposure. Dad and I sat on a small upholstered bench while Richard Caldwell, the estate attorney I'd contacted 3 weeks ago with a careful summary of what I'd found, 5-5, handled the legal aftermath with the efficiency of someone who'd seen worse family betrayals. Helen Ramsey stood near her table, speaking into her phone. I cannot notarize documents supported by revoked medical credentials. The procedure is cancelled. Caldwell approached us, briefcase in hand. Everything's documented, he said. The court filing is withdrawn. Mr. Sinclair, your assets remain yours. Dad nodded. Sue 5 and my son? That's not my jurisdiction. The medical board will investigate Dr. Hewitt. The rest depends on whether formal charges are filed. He didn't ask if we wanted to press charges. 3 weeks ago, I'd told him we might not. Caldwell left. The hallway settled into stillness. Dad sat beside me, hands folded the same way they'd been at Jarrett's dining table 4 days ago. But the tension was gone. He didn't ask about the evidence, didn't ask about the recordings, or how long I'd known or why I waited, just sat. Soft amber wall sconces cast gentle light. My watch showed 9:15, 4 days since family dinner. Sophie 4 months. Since I'd started documenting everything. 18 years since I'd felt like my father saw me as anything other than the family problem. After crisis ends, what matters isn't who was right, it's who stays. Dad turned to look at me. 71 years showed in his face, but his eyes were clear and present. Are you hungry? He asked quietly. Not, why didn't you tell me sooner? Not, how long have you known? Not, what happens with your brother? Just, are you hungry? The kind of question parents ask children. The kind that means I see you, I care about you, you're not a problem to solve. I met his gaze. For the first times of 4 days, I didn't analyze micro-expressions or calculate tactical responses. Just answered. 5, yes. That single word containing 18 years of being called the family failure. The one who couldn't settle down, couldn't maintain relationships, couldn't understand what family needed. 18 years of being the problem at every holiday, every phone call. And tonight, sitting on a hallway bench after exposing systematic fraud, my father didn't ask me to explain myself or justify my choices or defend my methods. He asked if I was hungry. Dad stood slowly, offered his hand. I took it. There's a diner 2 blocks from here, he said. Open late. Sounds perfect. We walked toward the exit together. Bah! Leaving the ballroom and its scattered evidence and its 150 witnesses behind. 18 years of being called failure. Tonight he asked if I was hungry. Some questions contain entire answers. Tuesday morning came with cold Texas light across my father's ranch house. Not Jarrett's showplace with its chandeliers and staged warmth, but the modest 2-bedroom where Dad had lived since Mom died, where things were worn and real. We'd spent Monday night at the diner, then driven here. My overnight bag sat by the door. Morning light caught dust motes through the kitchen window. Dad walked me out to my car on the gravel drive. Neither of us rushed. Cold air bit at my face. I reached for the car door handle. 5, I knew what you were doing last month, Dad said quietly. My hand stopped. I've been waiting for you to come home. I turned to look at him. 71 years in his face, eyes clear and steady. He hadn't been fooled at those breakfast meetings, hadn't been confused about documents. He'd been playing a role while waiting for his daughter to return and act. How long? I asked. Since September. Verna told me she was copying files. Asked if I wanted her to stop. He paused. I told her to keep going, and to wait for you. 6 months. He'd known for 6 months. Why didn't you? Because you needed to come back on your own, he said. Not because I called asking for help. 5, because you chose to. Parents know more than we think they do. They're just waiting to see if we'll come back. I gave him the same single nod I'd given at the gala. SWAT signal. Area secure. Threat neutralized. He nodded back. We understood each other's language now. I got in the car. Gravel crunched under tires as I pulled onto the road. My phone chimed. I glanced at the text at the intersection. Hostage situation downtown Austin. SWAT team mobilizing. Need you in 6 hours. I texted back, on my way. Professional mode reactivated automatically. The transition used to feel like relief. Escaping one role to inhabit another. But something was different. I merged onto the highway heading north. Empty. Road, cold morning, 6 hours, until I'd stand outside another building talking someone down from another ledge. The word home crossed my mind without the weight it had carried 4 days ago. I could think about Dad's ranch house. About that gravel driveway and morning coffee, without it feeling like failure or obligation. They say you can't go home again. Maybe that's true, but only because home was never a place to begin with. It was never Jarrett's mansion or Dad's ranch. 5. Never about the estate or the money, or who got called successful at family dinners. Home was my 71-year-old father saying, I've been waiting for you to come home, and meaning it. Home was driving north toward another crisis with tactical briefings on my phone, and the word family, finally feeling like something I could carry. Instead of something carrying me. Family isn't where you return. It's the person worth returning for. And to you listening to my story, remember, sometimes those who should protect us need protection from themselves. Don't wait like I did. 4 months documenting, gathering evidence, needing absolute proof before exposing my brother. But I knew from the first meeting what was happening. I just didn't want to believe it. If you see something wrong, act sooner than I did. This revenge story taught me that justice doesn't always come from courts. Sometimes one person standing up changes everything. I believe God gave me exactly what I needed for that moment. Training, patience, clarity. Whether you're looking for a grandma revenge ending where the elder wins, or a daughter protecting her father like I did. 5. These revenge stories matter because they show elder abuse doesn't have to win. It's why grandma revenge stories resonate. They're about family fighting back. And when we do, we stop patterns that would destroy others. If this story touched you, share it. Someone needs to know they're not alone. Comment below, what would you have done? Subscribe for more real stories about family, justice, and faith. Thank you for staying until the end. Some details are fictionalized for privacy, but the message about protecting loved ones is entirely real.